Okay, in this section 3-7, we're looking more at angles and parallel lines. So the first thing I want to come to here is I want to remind you of the zigzag pattern that we had looked at a few sections ago. Remember, if you pick two angles that are the same, they're congruent. If you pick two angles that are different, they're supplementary. And really, that's kind of the idea that's going to help us set up and solve equations in this particular section. So let's take a look at this right here, the first type of problem that we come to. It says find x and y. And so based on what we have here, I've got to set up an equation for x and solve it, an equation for y and solve it. Alright, so if I'm looking to solve for my x, I've got to set up an equation with the x's in it, right? I don't want to set up an equation with one with the x and one with the y, because then I would never solve for either one. You just want one missing variable in each equation that you create, unless you have a system of equations that you're going to be able to make. Alright, so if I'm trying to solve for x, my x, 9x plus 12 is here, and 3x is here. So the question is, what is the relationship between these two angles? Are they congruent or supplementary? Well, if you just look at your zigzag pattern, this would be the same, this would be the same, this and this. But the 3x is less than 90, the 9x plus 12 is more than 90, so they're going to be supplementary. Which means if I want to create an equation to come up with the answer, then I'm going to have to add these two expressions up to 180. So here's what my equation should look like. 9x plus 12 plus 3x equals to 180. Alright, so there's where the equation comes from. These two set equal to 180. Add them up to 180. Alright, so we can go and solve it now. We can add the 9x plus the 3x and get 12x minus or plus 12 equals to 180. Now I can subtract 12 from both sides, move it over. 12x equals to 180 minus 12. 12x equals to 168. And now we can divide by 12. And my x is equal to 14. Alright, so 14 is the correct answer for x. But remember, we also still have to find y. Now, there's only one thing in terms of y that they have given to me here. And so the question is, what else am I going to use to set up my equation? Well, I already know that x equals 14, so I can plug 14 in here and do it times 3. 3 times 14 is, let's see, 42. So that angle's 42 degrees. So now I know that those two together make a linear pair, so I'm going to write this. 4y plus 10 plus 42 equals 180. Alright, because they do form a linear pair, they're going to add up to 180. And so again, 10 plus 42, 4y plus 52 equals to 180. Subtract 52 from both sides. 4y equals to 100 minus 52. Which is going to bring me down to, oops, this is 180 by the way. I wrote that wrong. Let me switch that. 180 here. 180 here. Correct that. And 180 minus 52 is 128. Let's divide by 4. And my y is going to be 32. Alright, so there are my two answers. X equals 14, y equals 32. So the key is here, if you've got two x's, set the equation up for them to solve it, and then plug that number back in here to see what the actual angle is, and then making a relationship with your y's. Alright, let's try another one. Okay, here we'll start with the x first because these two are considered alternate interior angles, and we know that alternate interior angles have to be congruent. So my equation is going to be 8x minus 10 plus 7x equals they're actually going to be equal to each other, so I wrote that in wrong. So since they're the same, then 8x minus 10 equals 7x. Alright, so I want all the x's on one side and the regular numbers on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and move the 7x over and change it to minus. But at the same time, the 10 is going to go over to this side and change to positive. So the 7x moved over here and changed sign. The 10 moved over here and changed sign. So 8x minus 7x is x, and so x would be equal to 10. And then that's your answer for that one. Now we still have to find y. And so now that I know x is 10, I can plug 10 in here for x, and 7 times 10 makes this angle 70. Okay, so now that I know that angle 70, these two make a linear pair. So they'll add up to 180. So my equation for y is going to be this. 2y plus 20 plus 70 equals 180. Okay, we can combine 20 plus 70 together. 2y plus 90 equals to 180. And we'll subtract 90 from both sides. 2y equals 180 minus 90. And so that means 2y equals 90. Let's divide by 2. And now we find that my y is equal to 45. So 45 is the right answer there for y. So 10 for x, 45 for y. So again, just to kind of recap, what we'll need to do on these types of questions is, number one, set the two that you have together, solve it, plug it back in to see what the actual number is, and then make your equation for the second variable. All right? See what else we got. Okay, let's try a problem like this. It got cut off just a little bit. And so let me go ahead and on my sheet it got cut off. On the one online I think it's okay, but anyway, it's supposed to be 140 degrees. And the directions are supposed to say find measure of angle 1. Okay? Now, here's what we got to think about. If this is 140, then I know this one's 140, and if this is 32, I know this is 32. But how does it relate to this point in the middle? Well, here's the deal. Okay, on this one, if we're going to try to utilize alternate interior angles and whatnot with these other two lines, okay, I'm going to have to draw in a third parallel line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in a third parallel line. You'll see how this helps me in a minute. Okay. Alright, so when I draw in that third parallel line, if I'm wanting to find angle 1, okay, it becomes a little bit easier because if this is 140, then this is 40. And then they match because they're alternate interior angles. So this one would be 40, this top half of the angle. Okay, now, don't rush to put that answer in there because you're not done, because you've got the lower half of L1. Well, that's going to be 32 here because of the fact that they are opposite reciprocals. So now to finish angle 1, I just have to add 40 plus 32, and then that's going to give me 72 is the correct answer. So again, the key to this one is being able to draw in this auxiliary line. Remember, the line was there before it was drawn. Okay, so remember about different lines and how to draw them in. Okay, and occasionally too, you might have a question that's going to require you to draw in that auxiliary line. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so once again, we kind of know the trick here on this. If I want angle 1, then I'm going to have to draw in an auxiliary parallel line, a third parallel line, that kind of divides angle 1 into two parts. And if I find each part, I can add them together and get the answer. Well, this is 62, this is 62, because alternate interior angles are congruent. Alright? And if this is 144, then there are a couple of different ways you can do it. You can see what the linear pair is and then make it equal to that. Or What's the relationship between these two angles the way they are now? Parallel lines cut by a transversal. These are consecutive interior angles, and without doing any kind of a calculation, I already know that they have to add up to 180. And so if I do 180 minus 144, I'd very quickly get 36. And then they think, oh man, you know, I've got these two now, how do I get the full angle 1? I've got to take this top half and the top part and the bottom part and add them together. And so if I add 62 plus 36, then we get 98. And 98 is the correct answer. Alright, so these are the type of problems that you're going to be faced with on your quiz, which you are now ready to go and take.